Excellent. All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the ChatGPT and Botpress webinar. I'm your host, Jesse, and I'm a solutions architect here at Botpress, and I'm joined by Sylvain today, CEO and co-founder of Botpress. And for the people who have been following Sylvain at events and on social media, he's been teasing that something huge is coming. Today is about that something huge as we talk about unleashing. This is a mouthful for me. I have a hard time saying large language models and generative AI to the next generation of chatbots. And what's the next generation of chatbots? Really, we're going to discuss that a little bit. So before we dive into the fun stuff, I want to mention, yes, that the chat has disabled. You've probably already noticed that. So if you have any questions, comment, please share into the Q&A, Zoom Q&A panel to ask your questions. We have some moderators that will keep an eye out on those throughout the presentation, and they'll be sure to answer some of your questions as we go. And at the end, we'll have some time to answer there as many questions as possible there with the time we have left. So with that said, Sylvain, how did we get here today?
Yeah, so I'll just spend like 2-3 minutes just to explain for those that don't know much about Botpress and how we ended up here. So I'll spend 1 minute explaining the history of LLMs at Botpress, and then I'll introduce our new product. We want to leave as much time as possible for doing the actual demo, so there's going to be a lot of product showing and very little talking today. We scheduled like an hour for the webinar, probably should take about 30-35 minutes, and then we'll have like an open session for questions and answers. All right, so how did we get here? So as everyone is probably aware, ChatGPT was just released as an API, and now suddenly everybody's talking about it. But actually the history of GPT, goes back 3 years ago. When it was first released, we immediately started playing with it at Botpress, and we had some really, really interesting proof of concepts. Somehow we've always been bothered with the notion of intents and how misadapted intents were to answer questions, and just like how awkward it felt to teach the machine just by providing like so many examples to get the chatbots to understand. And so we got working on OpenBook. That was the first release of OpenBook was almost exactly 1 year ago. And what was interesting with OpenBook is that this was the first LLM native, GPT native NLU engine of the industry, right? So NLU engine stands for natural language understanding, which basically means that this is the brain part of a chatbot, right? So we were really like the first one to leverage LLMs in production. And today, I'm super proud to say that many Fortune 500 companies run on the OpenBook, and it has answered millions of questions. So OpenBook was a highly fine-tuned version of GPT-3. And we tuned it on millions and millions of data points. And just recently, ChatGPT got released, and basically, this is like a 10 times cheaper option than the Vinci GPT, like the original large language model from OpenAI was. And this just really highlights the high exponential technology that is at play here. We should really expect LLMs to get smarter, much smarter. They'll get cheaper, faster, and more reliable, right? They will also have many more knobs. And so our thesis at Botpress on how we address product and how we leverage generative AI is that we assume that this is an exponential technology that will keep improving. And so we took a step back about 2 years ago, and we asked ourselves, how is this industry going to look like in 5 years? How do we build a product that is compatible with GPT-6 and 7, right? And so we quickly came to the conclusion that the way that bots work will be completely different, and that in order to leverage that technology, the way that you build bots fundamentally will also be drastically different. and that these foundations were so different, then we had to build a new platform from the ground up to leverage these technologies to the maximum. And so we're not new to this market. We've been in the conversational AI industry for over 6 years. We know the ins and outs of it. We've built, an enterprise, great company here. We have many Fortune 500 customers, and we can piggyback from that experience of providing a secure, scalable infrastructure in terms of product. And also we have all the knowledge and all the support organization to bring this new technology to market. So that's super important because we see a lot of new players coming, that has very little knowledge about this industry. So, and then now the real question is how does generative AI and LLM basically is going to impact chatbot building, right? If you would just switch to the other slide, please.
I'll bring my trusty screen in the right window.
All right. So the very obvious, way that it's going to change it is at runtime. You've seen it with ChatGPT. Basically, understanding is almost a solved problem here. Okay, NLU works 100 times better than it did a year ago. The way that chatbots hold the conversation is also changing, and you'll see this today. The way that the chatbot answers is also drastically different. So this is something we call natural language generation, which obviously you've experienced with ChatGPT, and also something that we call decision making, right? Now chatbots can reason and make decisions by themselves. And so conversations are going to be really different, and the way that you build them will be also very different. And so the second point in how like this whole industry is going to be changed is at build time. And now I'm not talking about using generative AI to generate intents and entrances. Intents are just not the way to do it. We said last year intents are dead, and in fact we did have the intents funeral with the open book webinar last year. And so the platforms really have to adapt to this new reality. The way that you build, and that's true of conversational AI, but it's true of also all the other verticals. Generative AI will allow any creative process and any knowledge intense task to be done 100 or 1,000 times faster, right? And this is especially important in our industry because traditionally building bots was extremely time consuming and extremely knowledge intense. You had to be an expert in the field, and you needed to spend months, if not years, to build a good assistant. And you'll see today, this is not the case anymore, and this will just keep improving. And so what I want you to remember from this last 5 minutes that I just talked through is that we are building with ChatGPT first. We're building with GPT-6 in mind, right? So we really tackle the product in a way that this will scale so that we can leverage the latest and newest language model so that we can really accelerate the build time and make chatbots more useful and easy and quick to build, but also much smarter. And so without further ado, I'll pass it on to Jesse so that he can show you a real chatbot in action built with the new product.
The next gen chatbot. Thank you, Sylvain.
Well, okay. Well, let me just say before, so this is not just like ChatGPT. So you've seen ChatGPT answer questions. Just to set the expectations, you won't see much question answering here because I think everyone takes it for granted that ChatGPT can answer questions. What today we're going to show you is how ChatGPT can take actions, right? For the first time. I think this is like the big moment that everybody has been waiting for because it feels like ChatGPT is stuck in its own bubble, right? So we're unleashing ChatGPT from its bubble so that it can interact with the outside world. It can, communicate with, with anyone over your communication channels. It can call APIs. It can extract information. It can take decisions. And so this is what we're going to show you today.
It's incredible to think how far the field of conversational AI has come and how Botpress is really following pace with that, and even adding on top of them, right? So okay, we have to answer some questions that came in the Q&A. Yes, we have 2 demos today. One of which is the elusive, as you see here, inbox zero assistant, which I'll run you through. And the second one's going to be Sylvain, who'll build a bot live. You'll be able to even follow along with Sylvain. We'll take some recommendations from you. Like Sylvain's presentation is really the cool one. So I'll hope to keep you enthralled with mine as well as we build up to it. And you'll get to see really, we'll get to get a really good sense of how quickly these bots can be built with like how little effort. It got me scratching my head at that, thinking about the amount of time we had to invest previously to this, thinking about how I can create an instruction or a prompt. I'm just end up over engineering the complexity of this thing. And I just put in this simple 1 sentence and I get my intent, if you will, or my next step from the AI task, which is connected to ChatGPT. So I'll swap over my screen here to actually Botpress, so you get a sense of what that bot can look like now. There we go. That switch over. Okay, I believe it did. Oh, perfect. Okay, for the sake of reiterating a little bit what the Sylvain said, as a traditional bot building process, you needed to have a handle of a bunch of subjects, a bunch of topics. You needed a team, right? Well, what's NLU? What's NLP? What are classifiers? Semantic search, depending on the use case, you had to figure out which kind of model you were going to use. You had to think about your utterances, your intents, your entities, your slots. Think about conversation design and then copywriting. And not to forget the software engineer that builds out your integrations and connects to your other systems, that writes your code for you. But it's a time to drop all that because, well, the LLMs are great at all that, even software engineering. They'll write code for you. You just have to tell the AI what you want it to do, like yeah, let's classify a message. In our case, in the inbox, we want to understand, okay, what type of message is this, to decide what we're going to do next with it. So we extract information with the task, we store information with it in variables that we'll define naturally and we'll use throughout the conversation, and all that in natural language. So there's no more spending weeks of fine-tuning yet those intent models. It's just that it's about, the machines are finally understanding the humans, at least I think. And English, or any virtually written language right now, is the new programming language that's in vogue. Not JavaScript or Python, except maybe for the people that are building the large language models. So as a result, you, the builder, you can do it all with this simple task. So our idea for the inbox zero here, you'll see me moving around a lot because I'm looking at multiple screens and I have my bot on the left side here, is from the perspective of Sylvain, our own CEO here, that has a crazy inbox. And he receives a lot of invoices. Yeah, he's got a lot of bills to pay. He gets emails from landlords for our different offices, Montreal, Quebec, wherever else I don't know about. Sales reps, they're always trying to get his business for sure. Who doesn't want to be a part of Botpress? And potential investors. So our chatbot's first task here, first job, is to identify what type of message is coming in from our user. And we took the use case, the scenario here of an investor, right? So the AI task is, you can see it as a front to ChatGPT. It passes off our instruction to it. We get a response, we structure it, and then we're able to use it in our flows to get to our integrations and connect into our other systems. So this one here in particular, as you'll see, was instructed, I'll say was instructed to tell us what kind of email we're dealing with, and all that just with a natural language instruction, plain text. So determine from the below email if the person is seeking to invest in Botpress, is an invoice, a landlord, a cold outreach, define a little bit what a cold outreach is, and a general inquiry. And the beauty of this, aside from its simplicity, I thought I'd have to write something way more complex than this, is that it could have been written in a number of ways. we're sitting down brainstorming a bit, like, oh, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to write this? And it really just came down to like slap the first one in you could think of and then work from that. And it usually provides incredibly good results with basically no information. And for those, well, for those of you that know me, I like to keep things honest. So yes, there are challenges with writing instructions, and it can require a little bit of experimentation on occasion to get your desired output. But as you would with ChatGPT, and this is just getting exponentially better, as Sylvain was saying. So the complexity and what you have to specify here is just diminishing with time. So for those of you who are curious about the process and want to look it up, there's a lot of information online about what's called prompt engineering. If you're curious about that, you can check it out. There's all kinds of ways that you could supply different types of instructions, use different terminology and different structures in your instructions that will help you get the most out of your AI. So in my task here, I simply supplied event preview. So this is the user's message, or in our case, the user's email, right? So one thing that I should do is actually paste in a message here for you. An investor's email that we cooked up. It's quite large. We'll have that process. You can enjoy reading that investor's email, if you will. I've had fun writing it for the sake of the demo here. Okay, there we go. I'll keep going. So in this AI task, we declared some variables. These variables are what I want values assigned to from the task. And it's worth noting that everything you write or you use in the AI task will influence its behavior or its decision making. So the names of the variables are meaningful, as well as the descriptions that you provide to them if you so do so. And the last section, I'll say, of the AI task is the task example. So examples allows you to provide like more context to the AI task to help it structure its responses by better understanding what to expect. So when you create an AI task without any examples, it's called zero-shot prompting. You're essentially letting the AI take its best guess without seeing any examples of what the results you're looking for are. And if you supply one example, well, we call it one-shot prompting. And if we supply more than one, we'll call it few-shot prompting. And then there we go. So you simply provide more context to the instruction so it behaves better or behaves more as expected. And for this, I'll call it my classification task because I'm trying to classify the user's email to know what I'm doing with it. It did incredibly well with sample investor emails that we passed in, but it struggled with our cold outreaches. Well, that's why we add a little more definition in the instruction about what it could interpret as being a cold outreach. And we went along and supplied a full sample email of a cold outreach here and enabled the cold outreach email. This way, our task was able to see, oh, okay, this is what you meant by someone selling you products and services and trying to book a meeting with you out of nowhere that you don't know about. Okay, so when I see that, I'll be able to label it as a cold outreach. All right, so now that we managed to classify that that email that we pasted into the emulator here on the right hand side, we're asking the user, and this is generated text. So I didn't have to think about copy. I just told the AI task, the follow-up AI task here, as we chained a few of them through the conversation, to just thank the user for their interest and give them a personalized message and tell them that if they're interested, we could add them to our potential investors list and get back in contact with them, as you see in the task over here, top right-hand side in our inspector. Oh, I'll bring you to the debugger real quick. You may have been looking at that with that nice red and green after I sent the message in. We've done a ton of improvements for those of you who are already familiar with Botpress in terms of usability and the quantity and the amount of information, the granularity of that information in the debugger is you see a before and after snapshot of the variables that changed at that conversational turn at that specific step within the node. So we save the original message because we're going to use that later on for extracting more pieces of information from the email as we store this request in our CRM for investors. We have a message here that we stored as well that we replied back to the user here, and as well as set the variable investor related to true. So we'll go ahead and accept this offer here. Excellent. Our dear friend Frodo, thank you for your interest in Botpress. A lot of things just happen here. We went through also what we call a capture card here, and it can be seen as a pre-built AI task for common data extraction needs. It's more than that. Right? So when you define a card, you select the type of value that you want to extract, and all these values are really kind of behind the scenes AI tasks that have pre-built instructions that are doing these tasks for you for simplicity's sake. And why we created the captures is because we wanted to also add the convenience of looking back in the history of the conversation when you're trying to extract information. The user may have provided it previously, that piece of information you're looking for. And if they have, you want to skip this step in the conversation. So we're abstracting all that extra work you have to do in terms of like best conversation design practices about like your retries, your reprompts, your fallbacks, your misunderstanding. They're all built in this capture card, leveraging your LLM with all these configurable properties.
It's also important to know that you can, you can do validation, custom business validation. You could hit your CRM, make sure that the information provided is valid, and then reprompt, so a lot of things is included inside the capture card. But just think of it as like a very fancy AI task that is pre-built for you. By the end of flowing on that capture node, you're sure to have the value that you wanted from the user. That's basically the gist of it.
That's right. Thank you for the additional info, Sylvain. Yeah. So now we've accepted the request, and then what did we do? We added the request in our CRM. In this case, we opted to go through a Zap for the simplicity of the API call and an execute card. So an execute code card. I just had a brain freeze. It's like I was eating ice cream or something. All right. So in this Zap, we're passing a bunch of variables here, a bunch of properties that we're going to save into our CRM. CRM. I'm making it fancy here, but it could be as basic as a Google sheet where you're saving rows and columns, right? It doesn't have to be something too complex, but I mean, if you got Salesforce and you're saving them in there, go ahead. So let's take a look though before I continue about this execute code here, as there's more to it than there seems. These properties, these variables that I'm passing in, were extracted previously by an additional AI task that looks in the original email that was sent by the investor to extract some information like the fund size, the city, the fund type, what are the types of previous investments that they made. And you can see in the debugger that this task was able to find Rivendell and 1.2 billion, and it's growth focused. And the previous investments have been in the Shire, Rohan, Gondor, Mordor, and Isengard. It's interesting. We have a Rohan as a colleague here. We always enjoy Lord of the Rings reference with him. So, okay, I digress. So back to this card is the execute code, the Zap, is that it's there I want to specify that it is there for the occasions that Botpress isn't offering yet the native integration, because we're going to be rolling out a bunch of those integrations, and Zapier is going to be there out of the box. So it's not necessarily something you're going to have to do as a Zap integration, but if it's not there, well, you can definitely use it. Now, the catch, which isn't really a catch, is that we're also leveraging ChatGPT here instead of Codex. When was that deprecated, Sylvain? Yesterday, right? So with Botpress, you always have the assurance that we're going to use the latest and available non-deprecated models behind the scenes. So to provide sample code in plain English that we're calling a label here. So really, that's what I had posted in this execute card initially, and then I did some modifications, supply information, so some info. So to give you another example of how that works, we'll just use a sample execute card here, and I'll just tell it get GitHub stars for
Type starts.
Well, let's see how it it goes with that. I think it
sure it will get.
I think it'll figure it out. Botpress repo repository. Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's see. Yeah, there we go.
That's right.
Stargazers instead of startgazers. Well, this is perfect. This is what we're looking for. And we hard coded the repository here. But if we would have created a variable within our conversation and the workflow, asked the user, prompted the user, captured the information from the user for the repository that they wanted to do the search for, the label here would have understood that we're actually referring to the workflow variable that we defined, that we captured from the user's information, rather than the static Botpress field. And by that same effect, I want to bring you back to the transitions, right? So we've included this in other areas of Botpress as well. Transitions themselves are JavaScript conditions which are evaluated to determine where the conversation is going to flow next, which flow should execute next. So if you're not too much of a developer savvy, a software engineer, you could just write is investor related. As you see, it's grayed out here. The condition means it was provided by an AI task, right? So I just typed in a label, enter, as you just saw me do with GitHub, and it wrote that condition there for me. And as you saw, it's great with typos too, even implied meanings. For example, if I go in my reply to email here, I created some conditions. Is cold call. I forgot what the name of my variable was, but it understood that it was the cold outreach variable. Right? So it's just building this over the course of yesterday. I got so many pleasant surprises. All right. So handles typos. We got a Zap integration. I barely wrote a line of code. I wrote English. I wrote prose, if you will. All that's left is to integrate our chatbot with our inbox zero with our channels that we want to integrate with. And now in this case was email. So look at that. I'm in my logs. I'll go into my chatbot details. I'll go to the channels section where I can enable any number of channels I want to integrate my bot with. And in this case, we'll do Gmail, which I've already done going through the process of authorizing. It's really like 3 clicks and 1 save. Once you got your app authorization, and then when you go in your inbox, I sent this earlier because going around through the inbox there, going to one email, sending to the other email, coming back to the integration sometimes takes a little bit of time. But as the investor, when I send a message in to Sylvain's inbox, I'll do an intro to the fellowship is what I wrote before there. There we go. And Sylvain, just to confirm that works, right? We see here, we got the answer. Refresh a few times.
Hey, can people from the crowd just send emails? Like, would they?
Yeah, we won't see it in this inbox, but absolutely. If you want to send,
we have hundreds of people. I don't know, like if this spam your inbox, but
at SylvainGPT@botpress.com. I won't see them coming in here. That's in another inbox.
Oh,
So
got it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's your okay, yeah. I see.
Yeah, because in case people start sending some out, like we'd see their personal emails and maybe
Well, at least
be
they'll
a
get
little
a
more discreet
reply.
about that.
Okay.
They'll get a reply. That's it. So
I just want to mention this is not me. Okay. Don't take for granted. Maybe the AI goes rogue. That don't assume this is me.
I may have baked in a little bit of personality too, making him a little more eccentric than he is. What you'll see in the case of an invoice, a landlord, or a cold call, and whatever else are the scenarios that we're using. We're just so you get a reply back. Because a cold call, we just in an inbox want to go silent. We don't want to reply back. We don't want to say anything. So you just may get a confirmation that, oh, I classified this as an invoice, and it'll give you the reasoning why. Okay, so I hope we got you a little. I hope I got you a little excited there about Botpress, and maybe some of you are already signing up, trying it out, and which I believe is a great time great segue for Sylvain to present his demo, and you can build along with him. So Sydney, as we know, made quite a few waves when it was released last month. The Bing chatbot, and we're going to recreate this big tech bot together with Sylvain. Stop sharing my screen now.
Yeah, this is something you won't see very often. A conversational AI vendor doing a live demo, a live building demo. Normally, this would take months. We'll just do it together. Also, there's a bit of surprise. You'll tell me what to build. So I don't know upfront. So I'll ask you for some questions on how to improve it. So I'll just build the straight Bing chat for now. Let me just share my screen, and then you'll be participating and telling me what to build. And we will build it together. Hopefully the demo gods are with me. Hardest part, sharing my screen. Hold on.
Too many windows. Or if you're a new Mac, you have to restart Zoom.
Yeah, that's right. I have the new, sorry, just one second. I should have tried this before. It's the new window management. Okay. This one. Can you see this?
All right. ChatGPT Botpress slides, Botpress, and Botpress Studio. We're in the Botpress Studio.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is a very basic chatbot. In fact, I deleted everything. So that's like the most scratch chatbot that you can have. Like this is really from scratch. So the goal here, what we will build is a replica of Bing chat, right? So for those that don't know, Microsoft introduced in Bing a ChatGPT feature where you can just ask your questions in natural language and you get natural language back. So no search results, no web pages, just the straight answer from the search results. So that's what we're going to build. This should be super easy. So we will make it more complex and you'll tell me what to build. So the first step, let's just start by saying whatever the user said. I'll just show you. No, this should be just a parrot. Okay, we got our parrot. Let me move the Zoom window here. All right. Okay, so we need to take this user message and make an API call to Bing to get the search results back. So I'm going to move an execute node here. Now I could type here, like make a query to Bing with event.preview as the question. But unfortunately, Bing has an API that is gated, like you need an API key and so on. So like this in theory should work, but I'll just go ahead and paste my code that I've tested before. This is a service that does that for us. Now you can try this API key. It's not gonna work after the webinar, just delete it. So what happened here? So I'm just making like a post to this API that does the search results for us and storing the search results into a variable called search results. which I forgot to create. So I'm going to create a variable of type string called search results. Okay, now let's try this. What is Apple? First question that I have in mind. Okay, so we got search results back. So this will serve as our context window to answer the question. The debugger, you can see here, like you can basically see everything that the bot has done. So you can see here, make a query to Bing, or I think I'm using Google in that case. And you have like the API request here with the status code. I can see organic. Okay, so I can see that my search results are in there. And so this explains that snippet here. All right, now we need to make an answer out of that. So we will use an AI task that uses ChatGPT behind the scene. And so we will just say, please fully answer the user question below with all the relevant context based on the search results provided. I'll also tell it store the result in the answer variable. And so we will say search. So that's our input. So that's what it will use to generate our answer. So the search results are here. So we have it complete. We can see a bit how it looks. Perfect. And then we will say the user question is in fact, it's event.preview, right? We'll put it in quotes like this. In theory, this should just work, and then put it inside the answer variable. So I'll call it answer. I'll create a new variable just like this. All right. Now, instead of replying with the user's original message, I will answer with workflow.answer. Now let's try it again. So what is Apple? Very generic question. Depending on the speed of ChatGPT, this can take a few seconds or it can take 500 milliseconds. So we get the answer back. Amazing. Now, let me show you something a bit more interesting. So we have a feature here in the chatbot settings called personality rewrite. And I would invite you guys to share with me how you would like the chatbot to reply as. So let's just look at the chat, the suggestions from people. Who should Bing chat reply as? It can be any public personality. As it has to be interesting so that we can see the personality reflected in the answer. Kevin Hart. Yeah, Kevin Hart. I like it. Kevin Hart. Okay, let's try this. I'll chat. Well, you can use, yeah, you can use the questions. I'll do a Kevin Hart. So if I ask, what is Apple? Okay.
Wasn't a good time to take a sip of water there.
Worst timing for taking a sip. Yo, check it out. Okay. All right. Let the audience ask questions. Okay, so what should we ask Bing Chat? Oh, yeah, Joanna, you have an interesting question here. You're asking basically if we have transparency as to the sources of the answer. That's something we could do, maybe a bit outside of the scope of this demo, but obviously you have the search results with like all the web pages that was used to answer the question. So you could very well, store the web pages as well and ask the AI card to provide sources from where it took that information. That's something that you can very easily do. Note that we're not like really showing the built-in capabilities of question answering within Botpress, but we have the question answering module here. That's the traditional Q&A module. And the Q&A module basically cites its sources. So if you're using the Q&A to answer questions about your business, for example, then you would have all the sources cited from your knowledge base. So that's something built in Botpress. But here we're really like asking current questions. So we could ask from here, so something recent, what happened with SVB, which is Silicon Valley Bank, that went out of business last week. So that's not something that ChatGPT would know today because it's been trained in 2021. And so, but here, you can see that it has the answer. And according to Kevin Hart, we should, check it out. Silicon Valley Bank failed and got taken over by regulators in March 2023. I believe this is ends with "that's crazy, man." Okay, now that was pretty basic. We only have one node. So I want the audience to basically tell me how we could make this more complex and complete. Like I want to build something more complicated than that. So just give me suggestions as to what it could do in addition to that. You use the question in Zoom
Q&A,
to ask it.
Zoom Q&A.
Yeah. Let's take one that is politically correct.
We have one question here. Are languages, are other languages supported?
Yeah. Is supporting languages like Arabic? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's do this. So let's make this multilingual, right? So basically what we will do is let's make it answer in a different language, right? So very simply, let's do, in addition, I'm cocky, I'm putting it in the same AI card, okay? So show you it can extract more than one variable, can do more than one thing at once. Ideally, you would separate the AI cards when they are different tasks, but let's just write it like this. In addition to that, please provide the same answer, but this time translated into the requested language. Okay. Store that in the translated bar. Okay, so, and the translation, the requested language is, well, let's try it like this just for now, because I speak French. I know if it works or not, and then translated. Yeah, that's it. This. Okay, let's just see if that works. So what happened with SVB? We'll make it more complicated. Kevin Hart speaking in French, that would be weird, no? So AI card here, we can see translated. Well, okay, yeah, that's in French. That's literally the right answer. So let's just say it, right? workflow that translated. And now let's make it more complicated. Let's in fact capture the language from the user, right? So for this, I'll create an entity called language. I'll put French, Arabic, Spanish, Japanese, Chinese, German. Should be enough. Can provide synonyms, which I'm not going to do. And then we will capture the language of type language. We'll say, in which language would you like me to reply? And then we will listen again for the user's question. What is your query? Oh, let's store this inside the requested language variable. Very important. And we will put it here. Requested language. Hopefully that works. And in workflow that requested language. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's try it in French first. All right. What's the deal, my friend? Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because it also rewrites like your entire chatbot utterances, so not just like the answers, but like also the questions and basically all the utterances throughout. And so say what happened with SVB, and it should reply in French as well. And try in another language. I won't be able to gauge if it works or not because I only speak French. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that was a nice use case. Wow, it's already 51, so I think I'm gonna cut it there. We'll take some time to answer questions. In the meantime, I'm just gonna share my screen. I'll deploy this to Telegram so that you guys can talk with it over Telegram if you want. So I'll continue sharing my screen, but we'll answer questions in the meantime. I'll mute myself.
Sylvain, while we get some other questions in, you want to run one through Portuguese? We've got that request several times.
Sure. Sure. Okay, let me Portuguese. Is that how you write it? Portuguese. I should know that. It's my industry. Write in Portuguese, please. Oh, what happened there? Oh, okay. I need to select my changed choices. Yeah, Portuguese. Okay.
All right, we got a few questions in there. Right after that, we'll get started.
I don't know. What's a corgi? It seems weird. Translated is empty. Did I write it correctly?
Oh, a little something tricky here.
Portuguese. Maybe that's not how. Let's try it. It's in Japanese, right?
Okay, well, Sylvain, the demo gods were nice with us thus far. I think we pushed our luck there,
Yeah.
but it's sure to work. It's going to be probably just a little kink there in the instruction or so. So I have some questions that have been coming up. This one I feel we're going to be answering it later. But when are you expected to launch these new features? When are we launching all this?
So it's live now. So for the first time, everyone can experience this. So we've been beta testing with, I think, over 20,000 people so far. But the AI cards were not there. So now today we're unleashing all the AI tasks. Everyone can start playing around with it. I should just say, so this is about 10% of the features and the platform that we've showed you today. So we have 5 more announcements to make, just like this one. So this is the beginning. This is just us showing, like, yeah, we're in the generative space. Here's what we've been building. There are a lot of really, really, really cool features. In fact, much more cool than what we've showed you. But these require an entire webinar to go through. So we'll have 5 more announcements in addition to this one that you should attend to see the full extent of the platform. These features are not released yet. So what you've seen today, you can start playing around with it right away, and we will have more to show you very, very soon. So I want you to stay tuned, and yeah.
Is by any chance one of those features that we're planning on announcing going to be some kind of native support for voice bots, for voice enabled communications, like speech to text, text to speech?
It's possible.
It's possible. How with that inflection? Okay.
I don't want to share too much. I mean, what's the excitement then? But
Yeah.
there's 5 major things. Voice might be one.
Okay. We have some little technical questions here. Is it possible to call an image generator API or any kind of other API for that matter?
Basically, anything you can think of, Botpress can now do. You have any system, you have any integration, any language, basically anything that humans can do that is communication based, Botpress can do now. So yes, it can do integrations with virtually any system, given that that system has an API. Otherwise, you have to put an RPA on top of it.
Okay, that's a great question we get a lot, as long as there's an API. So the follow-up question to this was, is there a possibility to integrate directly with the database somehow?
Yeah, as long as there's an API on top of your database.
Okay.
Or that you wait maybe a few more weeks.
Keep these questions coming. We're unveiling these 5 secret announcements. I feel just
I should retire.
Sylvain's tone, like color. That's great. Okay. There we go. Would this integration be expanded so Botpress can be connected to other GPT-like systems such as self-hosted instance? Okay, if I got that question correctly, Botpress is GPT native. Is there possibility, or would be a possibility, to somehow connect into our LLM of choice?
As of now, right now, no, but the system will be open sourced fully. And you'll virtually be able to switch to any large language model of your liking. We expect really the community to contribute and add on top of the studio. So built in now, no, because we have a proxy. We make sure that basically your prompts are safe. They're not, they're not generating stuff that shouldn't be generated, and that we take AI quite seriously in terms of responsibility. So we're just putting some guardrails here, in front of the API. But if you wanted, in theory, you could, because it's open source.
All right. We have a few minutes left. We'll see maybe 1 or 2 more questions. One that came up frequently was about reading from websites. answering from a website? How can we build a bot that answers from a website?
Yeah, so in the studio, that's a feature we announced a couple of weeks back, but we have Botpress Go. So in the Botpress menu, you click on Botpress Go and you put the address of your website. We'll crawl your website, index all the knowledge, and you'll be able to ask any question about your knowledge base. That's built in the platform. Yeah.
Awesome.
We got another question. Can you prompt chain? Yeah, absolutely. You can put as many prompts like AI card or capture card, one after the other. You can do very, very advanced prompt chaining. In fact, this is the most advanced prompt chaining platform on the market today. Way ahead of like all the code-based platforms that you would have, because built-in memory, and you also have like the ability to communicate back with the user, which currently isn't supported by any prompt chaining.
And I imagine we're using the latest APIs from OpenAI for ChatGPT, GPT, GPT-4. Can we
right.
expect that in the future?
Well, as soon as GPT-4 is stable, so I can say, that is cost efficient and fast. Yeah, we are using it internally. There are some pretty heavy quota on it, and let's say the speed and cost has to improve.
All right. Well, I guess that'll have been our last question. We'll mark it the end. So amazing, Sylvain. Thank you. Well, you heard it from Sylvain. It's available now. So go ahead. Please sign up. You'll have access to unlimited bots, collaborators, workspaces, with our freemium tier of 1,000 free messages a month. So you can get building bots, testing that out right now. Do remember to follow us on social media for the latest news and information and these announcements that Sylvain has been trying to hide from us today, on Twitter and LinkedIn. Thank you everyone for your time, for the attention, and happy bot building.
Thanks everyone. Cheers.
Bye-bye.